So let me give you a really good example of how this works, and I'm going to tie this back into the accountability piece. One of my clients manufactures, they take an OEM product, they demanufacture it, and then they reassemble it with higher quality parts and pieces, and they sell those at a premium. And they take a product that they buy for $80 and they sell it for $400 by modifying it and then shipping it back out. We also custom paint every single product that comes through that shop. So we had a couple of different bottlenecks. One of them was that we found that about 30% of the orders, we would go through this process. It took about 10 days to create these custom products when our QA person was right before shipping. So she would get the product, she would look at it, and then she would, well, this isn't good, and she would send it back. So I asked them, I said, how often does this happen? They said, you know, it's pretty frequent. What does that mean, right? So we started tracking it, and we found that 35% of orders got rejected by QA and got returned through the process, right? And this has been going on for years, 35% of the orders. So what does that do? Well, that creates huge bottlenecks of the whole business, because now we have these urgent orders that have to go back to the beginning of the line. It creates delays on shipping. It has customer service picking up the phone or emailing, I think is what they were doing before I got there, and telling people that their order was going to be late. It was just a real bottleneck. So they said, well, we got to do something. We got to fire these people. I said, wait, let's just start our stand-up. So we go into the stand-up that next day, and we had all the data, and we went around the room, and we asked everybody what they were doing and all that kind of stuff, any barriers. And everybody in that department, no big deal. And I said, hey, I just want to give you guys a little bit of a state of the union here. We've been tracking some QA rejects, and I'm going to read them off to you by department. So as soon as I read that number off, everybody in that department goes, whoa, wait, we want to talk about that. No. And I said, no, we'll get to that. I just am reporting the number to you guys right now. I'm just giving you the scoreboard. So after the meeting, I watched those guys, and they all go over and they huddle up in the corner, and they're sort of talking and chatting, and they go back to their department. And the next day, we had one reject that came from that department, right, which was about 4%. When we did the stand-up, and I read that number off, and I did the one, these guys freaked out. And they were like, impossible that there was a reject. So I said, after the meeting, let's get together, we'll talk about it. After the meeting, we get together, they pull that product out, they're looking at it, and it turns out it was not a reject. They went 3 weeks, the 3 weeks that I ran the stand-up for them, without a single reject in that department. And again, it goes back to, why didn't anybody ever say anything? They didn't know. They knew that part of the work that they did on a daily basis was QA, rejections that they were handling, but nobody ever told them how many there were. And these guys took a lot of pride in that. The fact that they had to stand up in that meeting, and after a couple of sessions, what we did is we started asking them to report the number then. We started saying, hey, you guys go to the front and get the number for the QA rejects for the day. It completely and totally changed that department, right? Because these guys became engaged. They started to really think about everything that they were doing on a daily basis, and it completely reduced the amount of labor that we needed at that business. That business today operates with about a third of the people that it operated 2 years ago, and does more revenue, right? A lot of it was because they just did a bunch of double work and triple work on stuff.